Hi, I'm Ada.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and today we're going to be talking about intellectual humility.
Intellectual humility is defined as the recognition of the limits of one's knowledge and awareness of one's fallibility. Intellectual humility is recognized to help foster truth-seeking and compromise as it mitigates polarization.
As can be imagined, there are many benefits to having a sense of intellectual humility, but it's not often promoted in academic settings.
Research has shown that a lack of intellectual humility is related to less openness to other points of view, specifically in a socio-political context, as well as a fixed mindset of the belief that intelligence is a static trait.
In a political sense, a lack of intellectual humility can lead to an unwillingness to be exposed to other points of views, and the inability to accept information from the opposite party.
A lack of intellectual humility can also be associated with a pervasive overconfidence bias, in which one greatly overestimates their performance on a certain task and can lead to bad decisions based on one's false beliefs.
We can see that a lack of intellectual humility can often have negative consequences. So, what are the benefits?
One study discussed how displaying intellectual humility can serve as a reputation management tool by signaling we are a good source of information and to show others that we are not overclaiming superiority.
There was another study conducted which studied the effect of teachers' intellectual humility on their students. The study found that if teachers show to have intellectual humility, their students will feel more comfortable with their own intellectual humility.
This leads to positive outcomes for the students, such as a higher sense of acceptance by the teacher, a higher sense of belonging with their peers, and most importantly, a decrease in the belief that failure hurts learning.
Overall, a healthy amount of intellectual humility is a good thing. So, how can we promote this in a more academic, business, and in everyday settings?
I believe this starts with setting students up to have confidence in their own abilities, but to remain humble so that we might not be blinded by our own biases and expectations of those abilities.
A psychologist named Duncan Pritchard also agrees, arguing that there is a way to reconcile the goals of education in both allowing for intellectual humility and confidence.
He argues that this starts with educating people on the correct idea of humility as not a lack of self-confidence, but as an accurate understanding of one's own abilities and shortcomings.
As a parting word, Pritchard says, one becomes humble because one has been raised appropriately, or has trained oneself to become humble. Like other virtues, humility is thus acquired and maintained in a distinctive fashion.
So, to promote intellectual humility, we can begin by providing people with the empowerment to perform to the best of their abilities, but to understand and accept the limitations of those.
Having intellectual humility will not only help us towards our academic and professional goals, but it would also help us be more understanding and forgiving as a society. When we are conscious about our own failures and the places where we lack, we are more open to give more grace to others and to ourselves. Thank you.